against Manuel Charr. A 13-year, 9-month age advantage for Charr. 4-inch height advantage for Klitschko. Arm length advantage of 3 inches for the champion. And he weighed in about 7 pounds heavier than his now German-based opponent, Manuel Charr. Let's go to Moscow for the opening bell in Moscow Olympic Stadium between Klitschko and Charr.
There is a political component or subtext to this fight because Vitali Klitschko has been so active in democratic reform movement in his native Ukraine, which used to be a part of the Soviet Union. Manuel Stewart expressed a kind of anxiety that he was fighting for the first time in Moscow tonight.
Stewart saying that as a friend, he has no particular official connection to Vitali Klitschko. He has the unofficial connection, of course, of training Vitali's brother Wladimir. As round one gets underway, Charr at first was staying back, trying to get a look at what Klitschko wanted to do, and now Klitschko seems ready and willing, Max Kellerman, to go forward.
I think the big question heading into this fight is, will Klitschko's body break down at the age of 41? He's had shoulder issues in the past, the bad cut against Lennox, and as fighters age, they tend to be injured more easily. Will his body break down before he can break down Charr?
Klitschko's last title defense against Derek Chisora wound up being perhaps closer and more difficult than he might have anticipated after he tore a shoulder ligament in the 3rd round. It was in his left shoulder, which hampered his jab for the remainder of the fight. But he's using the jab freely and liberally right now as he begins to put the attack on Manuel Charr. CombiBox numbers showed us that Charr is, by habit, a slow starter. And in terms of his own punch output, he's off to a slow start here.
You see how he plays defense. He puts his gloves up high, tucks his elbows, and just tries to block. You could see the difference in amateur background watching these two guys right now. Vitali, with a deep amateur background, does things without thinking about them, or thinks about them very quickly and then does them. In Charr, you can see him thinking and then executing.
Charr's first in-the-ring combat experience was in Muay Thai kickboxing at age 16. Eventually, he gravitated into a boxing gym, had a very brief amateur career, and his first professional fight at age 20, about 5 months before his 21st birthday. That was 7 years ago. It's been a big first round for Vitali Klitschko, who has been only slightly threatened, though Charr landed an uppercut in that exchange.
So far, Vitali trying to keep Charr at the end of the jab, sees this kind of shell defense that Charr is using and trying to figure out a way to penetrate it without exposing himself to too much risk. Stepping around a little bit, going to the body, trying to figure it out.
Charr missing, Vitali Klitschko landing down the stretch of round one. Later to come in this telecast, the main event, Andre Ward and Chad Dawson.
I got a lot at stake, and Andre Ward has a lot at stake too. I'm telling you right now, Chad Dawson's up for this fight. I'm gonna put in the work, and I'm gonna show everybody why I think I'm the best 160-pounder in the world.
Every fight is a statement fight, and every single fight I want to go out there and outdo my last performance. What better than to do it against the light heavyweight champion, making a bold move to come down to 168 pounds to challenge me for my belt.
Andre Ward and Chad Dawson face off for Ward's Super Middleweight Championship later tonight in our main event. Ward has the advantages of fighting on his home court, so to speak, and fighting in the weight class he chose years ago as his own. Dawson has the advantages of being by nature the larger man, and also taller, a southpaw with a very smooth boxing style.
As round two begins, there's a nick outside the right eye of Manuel Charr and an abrasion on the right eyelid of Manuel Charr. Marks of some of the damage Klitschko was able to do in round number one, and he lands a stiff jab there that moves Charr back.
Larry Merchant, your thoughts so far?
I find myself a little surprised at how offensive Vitali Klitschko has been in the early going, and he's probably seen what we all have known about Charr, that he does this in the early rounds and hopes to extend the fight, and maybe thinks that he can extend Klitschko past his 41st birthday to his retirement.
Charr's defense makes him a sitting duck for Vitali on the outside. But I think you're right, Larry. He figures if he can weather the storm early, maybe Vitali's age is to Charr's advantage late.
It's possible, going back to what we discussed before, that if Klitschko wins an election next month for parliament in the Ukraine, this could be his last fight.
Vitali Klitschko had a 4-year hiatus in his career between 2004 and 2008, product of a series of injuries which continually interrupted his training sessions, particularly as he attempted to set up a fight with Hasim Rahman of the United States. But since coming back in 2008, he's won 9 straight fights and barely lost a round.
And it's amazing that at his age, after a 4-year layoff, I know the division is weak. The heavyweight division's been weak in the Klitschko era. But here's some names he's dominated. Chris Arreola, Tomasz, Adamek, Derek Chisora. Those are kind of the best guys around, and they weren't really in those fights.
And all of them considerably more accomplished than Manuel Charr, who was ridiculed by some as an opponent coming in and is taking some heavy punishment with 40 seconds to go in round number 2. It's past 1 a.m. in Moscow. The Klitschkos are accustomed to fighting before jam-packed stadiums in Germany. If you catch a wide shot here, you may see some empty seats. It does not appear that the Klitschko marketing power was as effective, at least in filling this stadium in Moscow, as has been the case in places like Hamburg and Cologne.
If Charr is counting on getting into the late round and tiring Klitschko out, he's going to have to land some kind of offense in the early rounds. And
there's a little hand by Charr. And Charr goes down at the end of round number 2. And it is a knockdown. And you see the count.
Kommt und dann kannst du ihn besser abkontern.
So here we see the knockdown at the end of the round. Charr tried to create some offense, as Larry suggested, and he paid the price, and that's one of the reasons it's difficult to mount an attack against either Klitschko brother. They're long-armed and they can punch.
And that is reportedly the first knockdown Charr has suffered in his professional boxing career.
I remember him going down against Danny Williams, but I guess that was ruled a slip, but the knockdown looked similar to that.
Round 3 in Moscow. The first 2 rounds have been thoroughly dominated by Vitali Klitschko against little-known but unbeaten opponent Manuel Charr. Charr is of Syrian lineage, born in Beirut during the Lebanese Civil War in 1984, ultimately went back to live for a period of time in Syria as a child, moved to Russia at age 5, and then eventually to Germany, where he now fights as a German.
Charr is showing the ability to reach Vitali from time to time. There was an uppercut in the first round, a right hand near the end of the second. Just then he clipped Vitali cleanly.
And it appeared to me that the knockdown came on an over-the-top right hand that Charr might not have seen because his head was down.
And he didn't look hurt to me.
You know, Klitschko has an amazing body for a 41-year-old guy who was 6'8". He weighed in for this fight at 248. He's been in the 240s roughly his entire known heavyweight career since he became a top fighter. He's taken it seriously, even though he calls it now a vacation from his political vocation these days.
It's amazing that in the Western Hemisphere, where we supposedly have a more professional culture in boxing, fighters keep missing weight and coming in out of shape. And the Eastern European amateur program has produced professionals who show up in shape every time.
And isn't this perhaps the most amazing statistics of Vitali's career, guys? 46 professional fights. In the 2 losses, a retirement due to injury against Byrd, a stoppage due to that horrible cut on his left eye against Lennox Lewis. He was leading on the scorecards in both those instances. So never once in his professional career has he reached the end of a prize fight behind on the scorecards.
And fighting big guys, you know, who occasionally will land a punch, he's never been down yet.
I can't think of any heavyweight in the history of boxing at 41 who's fought as many world-class opponents as Vitali, though you can question the quality of the world-class opponents in his era, who's never been down on the cards or knocked down. That's, I think, historically a significant achievement.
On the other hand, Charr, who seemed to fail to land almost all of his punches in the first 2 rounds, has actually made a little contact here in round number 3. With that jab, for instance. But for now, Charr is still taking a lot more than he's giving. Catch the next Real Sports Tuesday, September 18, as we profile the newest owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Magic Johnson. Saturday, September 22, tune into the next installment of my show, The Fight Game, as we take an in-depth look at timely topics in the sport we cover, boxing.
Ringe bestimmt ist gut. Das wissen wir mal, die Beine nehmen, dass sie mehr laufen.
Here's Charr having some of that offensive success. Left hand lands cleanly, jab lands cleanly. Charr has a sneaky jab, lands more forcefully than some heavyweights. Maybe his most consistent punch. But you've seen so far, given Vitali's height and reach and awkward defense, he's being clipped from time to time here.
Well, we can see that Charr's a hungry, young, and tough fighter. Whether he has the talent at this level is highly questionable.
We're calling this fight from a studio in Oakland. Official scorers are far away in Moscow. Our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman, here with us as always. Harold, how do you have it for 3?
Okay, Jim. I got it 30-26, 3 rounds to nothing, Vitali Klitschko. You know, Jim, I can't get over Vitali in this fight. I mean, we mentioned the word defense. He doesn't have any defense at all. The entire 3 rounds, he's fighting with both hands down. You know, normally keeps that right hand up so you can't hit him on jaw and knock him out. But in this fight, both hands down all the time. So all you got to do is really throw a punch at him, and you'll probably hit him. But Charr just hasn't done enough. Vitali gets an extra point in round 2 for the knockdown. 3-0, Klitschko.
The right hand down is the reason that Charr is landing those left hands up top from time to time.
Isn't it fair to say, Max, that Vitali's defense is really his command of space, his extraordinary understanding of the distance between him and his opponent, and the reflexes that make it possible for him to counter so quickly?
Yes, absolutely. Charr is negotiating that space better than some have negotiated that space against Vitali. And I also think, unless there's something physically wrong with Vitali, and it doesn't appear to be, that he's trying to get Charr out of his shell defense. Charr with a bad cut over the right eye.
Well, we told you at the end of round 1 there was a nick outside of Charr's right eye and an abrasion on the eyelid. It appears that the abrasion on the eyelid may have opened up, and that's why the blood is flowing. There's a hard right hand by Charr as he seems to realize the urgency of his situation.
And that may be Charr's blood on Vitali's left eye, but there's redness over Vitali's left eye as well. I do think that the right hand, the position of the right hand, is an attempt to draw Charr out.
Charr claimed in the build-up to the fight that he's never been cut as a professional boxer. Was cut once a long time ago in a kickboxing enterprise. But here he has been cut by Vitali Klitschko. And with 51 seconds to go in the 4th round, the referee is going to take Charr to ringside for a doctor to examine him. Referee is Guido Cavalieri of Italy. And we have to presume this is a Russian ring doctor.
There it is, the left hand from Vitali cleanly and clearly opening the cut over Charr's right eye. It's the younger man, ostensibly closer to his prime, whose body is falling apart for the 41-year-old.
Are they calling the fight? It looks as though they're stopping the fight.
Charr is very upset. But his cornermen are coming into the ring, and it appears that it is over. It's going to be a technical knockout win for Vitali Klitschko here in the 4th round as a furious Manuel Charr expresses his emotion.
I gotta say, I understand why he's upset. He was fighting back, and it's early in the fight. It's a very bad position for the cut. Maybe it's a deep cut. But Larry, what do you think about that stoppage?
I think that it was a bit premature. I think that maybe in Russia, where they've had very little professional prize fighting on this level, that they don't maybe get that.
I agree.
Well, if the names I've been given are correct, the 2 ring doctors who were listed are actually, it appears to me, German. That was apparently Dr. Stefan Olthusen, who stopped the fight, and he has a German name, not a Russian one. So it's not as if Charr could complain that a Russian doctor protected Vitali.
Charr's being upset is understandable. He's aimed for this all his life. He describes himself not just as hungry, but penniless, that he has no money, that friends have to support his career, pay his rent, buy his gasoline. This is the moment of his life, and he feels that he's still alive in this fight.
Yeah, the fight, while he was way behind, had not yet been decided. The outcome was still in doubt.
But we can remember another fight that ended like this, Vitali
in Los
Klitschko
Angeles,
and Lennox
between
Lewis.
Vitali Klitschko and Lennox Lewis, exactly right. Although, of course, Vitali's eye was considerably worse than that, way off the board. But nevertheless, ironically, it was an eyelid cut which produced that stoppage. Let's go to Michael Buffer now for the official particulars on the knockout.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 2 minutes and 4 seconds of round number 4. Referee Guido Cavalieri, at the request of the ringside physician, calls a halt to the bout because of a severe laceration over the right eye. The winner by TKO victory, and still WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Dr. Iron Fist, Vitali
So Vitali Klitschko has the 45th win and the 41st knockout of his increasingly legendary career in what could conceivably have been his last appearance in the ring.